Welcome to another episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, and on this episode, I interview Natalie Graves, who's a highly respected mental health professional specializing in athlete mental health and performance. On this episode, we dive into what is needed at the different athletic levels, the youth level, the college level, for normalization of mental health coaching. She gives us her dream wish list of what each level could have. And then she shares how I went through a long struggle of being a rage filled pitcher and how to chill that out and bring it back down to a level that made it work for me. How to funnel that anger and rage. At the end, she shares about her two books, one that's already out and another that's on its way out. So check the show notes to see what kind of free gift she's offering you at the end of this episode. Natalie Graves, thank you so unbelievably much for being on Spirit of an Athlete with me and talking about mental health today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
All right, let's dive right in. So, chronic illness versus injury. This is a topic when it comes to the athlete as well as the coach that I want to tackle. So,
Okay.
what is your experience when it comes to an athlete who has a chronic illness and how the coach tends to respond to that chronic illness?
So, when we talk about chronic illness, particularly from a coach's perspective, we really need to be clear. Are we talking physical or are we talking mental? Because the way that it is perceived can be different. So we need to be clear. So if we're talking about chronic pain and injury, that's an accepted thing in sports. When we're talking about a
Hmm.
chronic mental illness, a mental health struggle, that's a different category. And depending on the understanding of the program or the coach, the response may be different.
All right, I'm going to tease this one a little because I tend to find that with chronic pain and chronic illness comes a mental breakdown.
At the minimum, a mental
The-
stress, right? So when an
yeah.
athlete gets an injury, there is the physical pain, but then there's the internal pain that comes along with that, right? So the athlete's already
Mhm.
dealing with, let's just say it's a torn ACL, let's just say. And so the pain of that, the accepting of loss of season, surgery. So you're dealing with all of the things you can see. We can see you're in pain. You can
Mhm.
see that you're going to be away from the team. You can see that you're going to have surgery. You can see the bandage, all of the things. The internal part,
Right. The visual
the
recognition.
visual part of that, absolutely. The part that we don't see is the isolation, the fear, the emotional pain, right? The uncertainty
Mhm.
and this feeling of loss of identity because who that athlete is very tied to what they're able to do physically. And now they can't do the thing physically at the moment. And so that plays on an internal type of recognition that is very uncomfortable and it's uncertain. And that's the piece that we don't talk about as much. And so all of that's going on, the physical and the mental, that's where I am really passionate about really focusing on the mental rehabilitation. Because just as you have to rehab physically to get that body back the way it was or even better, we have to do that work mentally as well.
Mhm. Preach. I completely and totally agree. When I'm working with someone who has a chronic illness, that's the piece of the puzzle that they want to skip past because once we've healed the body, They're like,
We're
"Oh, we're
done.
done." No, no, no. We gotta work on the mental side of things. Otherwise, this thing is gonna rear its ugly head over and over again.
That's exactly
It'll be different layers.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is sometimes the athlete you loses trust in the body. And so where the
Oh, yeah.
doctor has cleared him or her, they're hesitant to go back in. Will this happen again? Am I really ready? We have to have a conversation about the relationship with the athlete and pain and understanding pain. Is soreness pain? How does the body feel post surgery? All of those things have a mental component. And even if the doctor clears the athlete, if mentally they're not healed, it is going to impact the performance.
Man, it's interesting. So, when you have a physical injury, it's obvious, right? There's a brace or you've gotta go to the trainer and the trainer's gotta clear you in order to play if you're at the collegiate level or the professional level. But when you have an chronic illness where your trainers aren't involved, this is strictly the doctors. The coaches don't fully understand potentially what is going on. So, an example of this would be like Crohn's. I had a player who, at a very young age, ended up being diagnosed. She was in the hospital, had Crohn's. And then afterward, it was me as the coach having to learn what is Crohn's? How can I help her navigate Crohn's while traveling for sports, while being an athlete, going through games and practices? Do you notice if there's a difference with coaches when it comes to treating a chronic illness? That again, it's like the mental illness where it's not as obvious, it's not in your face like an injury.
Oh, absolutely. And the sports culture, there's everyone's heard the saying, injuries are a part of sports.
Mhm.
Well, when they're talking about the injury, they're talking about a physical injury.
Exactly.
Coaches, a lot of times, who are not familiar with, how mental illness presents in athletes in particular, what does that look like? What does that not look like? What should they do? It's usually kind of this hands off, taboo, don't want to talk about it,
Yep.
don't know what to do about it. Now, to be fair, it is getting better. I have to say that. We have made a lot of gains as far as educating and being aware, but we have a ways to go in within that team dynamic. How do we deal with an athlete who is struggling mentally
Mhm.
or with something chronic, repetitive challenges, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, there is a difference because the systems are already put in place for a physical injury.
Right.
Like you said, the PT is already there, the sports doctor is already there. We know that we're going to go to the hospital and we'll do all the things. But what if it's chronic condition like clinical depression
Exactly.
and the athlete has episodes throughout the season? Then what? And that's the piece where the things are not in place.
Mm.
You know, not all programs are built to have that sports therapist in place to do the intervention. I prefer prevention before intervention, but a lot of times we respond with the intervention because something has already happened.
Right.
But even when something has already happened, some programs still don't have folks in place to address it. And that's the risk, that's the concern. So we
Mhm.
really have to educate ourselves, the coaches, the parents, the athletes themselves, the sports staff. What does mental health, what is it? What does it look like in athletes? And when they're struggling, what do we do about it?
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the gap that we constantly have to be talking openly about this thing so we can normalize it so that when something happens, we have folks in place, we're able to transition in and out of sport and carry on just like any other physical injury. That's what the ideal situation is. We treat mental health like physical health.
Okay. I'm gonna go at this from a couple of different angles. So, a youth sports team. The coach is part of an organization that has a bunch of other coaches and someone at the top. What are some things that the people at the top of that organization should be putting in place so that the coach is prepared to handle when a child has this mental condition or even chronic illness that's not as obvious as, say, an injury.
So can I give my dream scenario?
Yes,
How
please.
it
Oh my
is.
gosh. Yes.
So
Let's dream big.
so what I would like to see, and you said youth sports, right?
Youth. Yes, this is specifically youth. I'm going to go with the next levels. Don't you worry.
Okay. So if I had my way, we would have a before the season start, we would have a training for the coaches on understanding mental health risk of athletes
Mm,
before the season even starts. We would do that training, and then we would talk about it, and we would train the coaches how to identify something and then what to do, how to refer, how to talk about it, how do you go to the next step. We're not asking coaches to be therapists.
right.
We're just asking coaches to be aware of real risk. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would do, I would bring all the parents together and have a similar training, understanding the sports parents role, right?
Hmm.
And how they impact their kids, and how do they identify mental health risks of athletes. So there, we've got those two.
Mm,
Check.
right.
I
Yes.
would love to also come in and do some work with the team. See, this is very important that we create a culture around talking about mental health, mental wellness. And when something happens, that we don't have to freak out about it. We just follow the protocol.
Mm,
And the protocol is figuring out, okay, how do we support this athlete? So the next thing would be is to bring the team together, educate them on how their mental wellness is connected to their performance and how some performances can contribute to mental challenges, right? And
hmm.
how do they identify that within each other, within themselves? So now what we're doing is we're creating a culture, right,
Hmm.
around normalizing this conversation. So when something happens, we know what to do. And with every layer of the parents, the coaches, and the team, we identify here's someone that we can talk to. And give you a quick example. I'm currently working with a baseball player, and he is at the junior college level, and he's in a house with other teammates.
Hmm.
And one of his roommates, who's a teammate, began to have some mental distresses. So my client was telling me this in the sessions. We were kind of processing how can he support, how this. And so I'm going through the thing. So each week he would kind of bring it up. This one particular day, the roommate had a meltdown. And I had to coach my athlete what to do in real time in this situation. It could have been unsafe, it could have been very dangerous. And so I instructed him to let his coach know and make sure the coach is letting the AD know. Right. And I kind of began to kind of take the whole house and kind of just stabilize their emotions in responding to this mental breakdown situation. We weren't exactly sure what was going on, but something was very wrong. And what I discovered is that the coach didn't know what to do.
Mm,
And so it was this kind of thing of
scramble.
who do I tell? Who do I not tell? How do we handle this? And me working with my athlete was able to kind of help guide this situation that wasn't my client, but it affected my client, and it was a safety thing. And from that experience, ironically enough, I'm not making this up, the next week, another athlete at another school, basketball player, his roommate had an issue. Same thing. And so from that experience, what that showed me is that well-meaning sports staff, coaches, whoever, are not equipped to know what to do. And there's some easy fixes with that. And so I created some trainings for coaches,
Hmm.
just for coaches to help them kind of navigate when something happens, because it's really not when, it's honestly if.
Yeah.
Right? So We take care of the coaches' education. We take care of the parents. We bring the team in, right? And we educate and we normalize. And now we've created a culture of, we talk about this like nutrition. We talk about this like when we look at film. We talk about this when we're getting ready for the playoffs. It's normal.
Yep.
So if we could begin, and youth sports is the perfect place to start, because that experience, it follows them all the way in their sports career, and now we're changing how we treat chronic illnesses, mental illness, all the rest of it. Because we,
Hmm.
we can't avoid it. We're past this ignoring phase. We've got to just deal
Yes.
with the thing. And I always like to share the stat with people. 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5 people in any given year will suffer a mental illness. That is so common. We need to stop acting like this is some rare occurrence. It happens all the time.
Hmm.
And you're not less for it. We just need to deal with it. That's all.
We need to have better tools. That's really what it boils down to. Having the right tools, having the
Right.
right information, having the right support staff, which is what you do. And I thank you so unbelievably much. This is an area in sports, period, that really does lack. The amount of pressure that athletes put on themselves to produce and perform day in and day out is immense. And then to top
Yes.
that off, they're also usually students. We haven't quite made it into the pro level. We're not there yet. And most of the people listening to this podcast, they're going to be student athletes dealing with the pressures of being a student and an athlete at the exact same time. Let's take the breakdown of what you gave us for youth sports. And now let's look at a little bit higher level. So,
Okay.
college athletics.
College athletics.
Division 1 seems to be where we have a lot of that support staff. I was a Division 1 athlete and a Division 2 athlete. In Division 1, I got to work with a sports psychologist because our program had it. But Division 2, we didn't have that kind of support. And I'm going to guess Division 3, NAIA, junior colleges tend not to have that level of support at their schools.
Right.
Let's start at the Division 1 level. Are there any tweaks that you would want to make at the Division 1 level?
I would love for, at the Division 1 level, is to have their counselors housed, their therapists housed in the athletic department.
Mhm.
Why do I say that? Because the athlete's life is at the athletic department. This is where the meetings are, this is where the training, wherever the training facilities, the coaches, whatever, the athletic counselors, the athletic therapists, they need to be housed there too. That gives the athlete easy access,
Mhm.
and we take the barrier away of the fear of, well, if I go to the student center, a classmate may see me.
Yep.
And now I have to worry about what they're going to say.
Yep.
Right. So let's remove that barrier. That's a simple fix. Let's get a space and put the folks in there and be available. That's a simple tweak, but it
That
is
is.
major, major if we could
Mhm.
do that.
I completely agree.
Then we want to make sure on the D1 level that the therapists, the counselors, the sports psychologists, sports social workers, whoever they are, that they're really clear in understanding the pressures that a student athlete has, right?
Yes.
It's student first, then athlete.
Mhm.
Depending on the program, it may be reversed.
Yes. At the Division 1 level, it tends to be reversed, just from experience.
If we're honest, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of parents who have worked with a therapist that was a generalist. They generally just see everybody. And I've heard multiple times, but they didn't understand the sports aspect of it.
Mhm.
And that's an important piece for the professionals who are working with these athletes, these student athletes, to really understand the culture of sport,
Right.
because that is very significant. So if we're going to, again, to my wish list, housed at the athletic department,
Mhm.
therapists and counselors who understand the culture of sport and being a student athlete, right?
Mhm.
Same thing, let's go again with the all of the coaches, the athletic trainers now.
Mhm.
I would like to do a training with the athletic trainers, the coaches, nutritionists, again, helping them to understand the risk of student athletes and how to identify it and what to do when something arises. It is
Mm.
very important to understand that the athletic trainer hears everything,
Yes. Yes, they do.
everything. And the thing is, they don't always know what to do with that information.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be amazing if a sports social worker could come in and like train them on, when you hear this, when you see this behavior, this is a little tick, that's a little flag of saying, let's keep an eye on that. We may need to do a triage of how we can support this athlete in a different way while they're rehabbing. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes.
If
Yes, it
that's
would.
in my dream world, that's what it would be,
That's
right? And
beautiful.
then again, working with the teams, if every team could be touched by a mental health professional.
Mhm.
We don't want to wait until something happens. See that we got to get away from that. We want to introduce the concepts of self-care, managing stress, right?
Yes.
Team building, all of those things, just like we prep ahead of time on for a particular team and a certain game or whatever. Let's do that same mental prep,
Mhm.
but on a sports, on a team level.
Yep.
On a team level, I do a lot of this individually with athletes, but wouldn't it be just wonderful if the programs would just kind of adopt this type of intervention, treatment, support? Their
Exactly.
athletes will be better for it, and their performance will be better for it.
Yep. And they
So
would feel
that
more in a safe place within their team, within their
exactly
organization. I feel like that is probably the most critical piece that coaches bypass. Coaches are like, "Okay, we're gonna work on the mental game," right? And their version of the mental game is, "What are you thinking about in a certain skill position?" Not,
right,
"Did you remember to breathe?" And, "Did you remember
that's
to calm yourself back down once you got back to the bench?"
right,
Things like that
right.
aren't part of the coach's mental arena.
Well, not even just did you remember, did we teach you how
Yeah.
to calm down on the bench,
Right.
right? Did we talk about how to use deep breathing as a method of self-soothing and relaxation and focusing?
Mhm.
So it's not just, well, did you do it, but did you show me how to do it? Did you explain the benefits of it, right?
Mhm.
And all of these things that we're talking about, coaches could do it too.
Yes, which they needed as much as the athlete.
Right, right. Absolutely. One of the things that I ask when coaches come inquiring about services for me to work with their teams or that kind of thing, I ask them, so what do you do for your self-care? What do you do with stress management? How do you handle? What are your coping mechanisms?
Mhm.
Often they're not there.
Oh,
They're not in place.
no. That is so sad. It's gotta start at the top, and that's why I
Yes.
keep on saying, like, at the organizational level, we've gotta hit it there first, and then work our way down into the coaches and then into the team, and that's
Right.
culture, right?
Right.
Mm,
Right.
mm. I think I love that you point out that we should have the social workers and the therapists right there in the athletic facility. I remember having to go to the sports psychologist on the opposite side of campus, and that walk
Who
was
wants to do
tough.
that? Right.
That was
Right. We
and
can make that easier.
right? Exactly. I mean, walking into that building, just like you said, walking into that building, I'm like, "Okay, who am I gonna see and what are they gonna ask me?" Right? And I don't wanna talk about it because I really don't even wanna talk about it with a sports psychologist, but it's a mandatory thing at this point from my coaches and from the athletic trainers and the rest of the organization pushing me in that direction, and it was just like, this is a lot. So I love that you said, "Let's put those people in the facility," but then also
Yeah.
immerse them in the culture, not just the culture of being an athlete, but the culture of the athletic program. Every athletic program
Yes.
has their own culture. Every school has their own culture when it comes to their sports. And having those people immersed in it on a day in and day out basis would be huge.
Oh, I so agree with you. We're speaking from the same hymnal, I tell you.
Mhm.
I talk a lot about introducing mental wellness into your athletic culture. That is something that really should be a priority. And it's not as complicated as one may think. It's really normalizing these
Mhm.
conversations. It's creating a safe space. It's allowing athletes to have a place to be able to talk about this freely with each other, with their coaches, with the staff. In creating that, we can really prevent some of these horrible, horrible situations because now we're in a culture, we're in an environment where we don't have to be ashamed about it. See, a lot of this is about being ashamed
Mhm.
and feeling that you're less than and inferior or you're weak.
Mhm.
But if we change the narrative and say actually seeking help is a sign of strength,
Yes.
actually noticing your teammate is struggling and reaching out to them and encouraging them to talk to someone makes us all better,
Mhm.
then it's no surprise that people are just kind of having these normal conversations and they're like, I got to go see my therapist today. I'm working on some things today.
Yes.
Programs do that. It can be done, but we have to get over this taboo mentality.
Yes.
We have to get over this. We just won't talk about that because silence can kill.
Truly.
And so we just need to be open and just sort the thing out. Just sort it out. And we do that with just asking some questions. If you don't have any training, if you don't have any knowledge, you can say, I've noticed you've been behaving a little bit different. You're not quite yourself. Talk to me. What's going on? That's a non judgmental, just inquiring in a caring way can open the door
Yep.
to something that could lead to someone getting the help that they need.
Yep.
But we've got to train folks and we've got to talk openly these conversations. And that's why I love to do these kind of things. Amanda, I
Mhm.
love to talk about it because the more we talk about it, the more it's just a regular thing.
Exactly.
It's
It's more
normalized.
normalized. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yes. When it comes to student athletes, it truly is this great pressure that we put on ourselves if we really love our game. And
Right.
to not know how to handle when things don't go right, when things do go right and we get overly emotional, all of both ends of that spectrum need to be taught. It's not just about, oh my gosh, this player is depressed. It's like, this player has so much passion and explosive energy. How do we bring them back down so they can play at a certain level? That was something that I experienced as a pitcher. I would go into a game and I was so gung ho and it was over the
Yes.
top, and I needed people to teach me how to bring it back down and level myself out so that I wasn't going out there and just burning myself out in the first inning, or going out there so gung ho that I was out of control.
Right. Were you a pitcher that needed to play angry or you just had high energy? Like what was kind of how did you present on the mound? Because see
Ooh,
that's important.
right? Okay. So in my youth, and you can ask anybody that I played against, I was angry. I was a
Yes.
very rage filled kid. And
Yes.
as I got older, and I went on to college. I played Division 1 and then Division 2. When I finally got to Division 2 and I finally had a coach that could teach me how to hone in the mental side of the game, oh my gosh, it was a
Yeah.
game changer. And it wasn't like he was doing earth-shattering, groundbreaking things. He was putting me into a routine and saying, "Okay, this is our routine every single day." And it brought me to the level that I needed to be at in order to produce at the highest level I was capable of. Thank you, Don Petro. But that was
Yes.
really the trick, was I was this rage-filled, off the charts kid that was going out there angry and wanting to just blast things off the charts, which I threw unbelievably fast. I was in the 70s, but I was out of control, and I was
Yeah.
mentally
Yeah.
out of control. I was not in a safe place for myself for my entire youth.
Mhm. And the reason why I ask that is because that feeling of anger or rage, that emotion, that feeling, it comes through in the performance.
Mhm.
And if I were to have worked with you during that time, I would have done exactly what that coach did with you. And I would have said, now let's focus the anger in how you want to throw.
Mhm.
But that's mental, right? And
Yes.
so, I'm happy that you were able to connect with a coach that was able to do that.
Mhm.
But if we don't kind of pull the layers off and look deeper into the athlete, we can't get to those things.
Yep.
Someone did that for you.
Yes. At
We've
24
got to
and
make sure
25
that
years old, no less. The end of my
right.
my career at this semi-pro college level.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So just that little tweak made all the difference in the world for you.
it did. I
And
just
that's
wish
just an
I woulda had it
example.
sooner.
Yeah. See, that's the piece there, right?
Mhm.
I mean, but that's what we want for every athlete is that we look beyond just the performer. Let's go deeper. If
Mhm.
we go deeper, we can help the performer,
Yep.
but we also can help the individual
Yes,
because they're not just athletes, they're people too.
exactly.
So let's cover all of who they are,
Yes,
and that's my belief system.
I love that. All right, Natalie, where can people find you? Tell us a little bit about your new book coming out and the book that's already out there.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So people can find me in all the places. I'm on IG, Natalie Graves, athletic counselor. You can find me on Facebook, same name. I'm on X, Twitter, under my name. Website, same thing, nataliegraves.com. But the book. I'm
Yes,
so excited. So my current book is the Athlete's Prep book. It is a comprehensive guide and workbook for athletes during their season. So you take this book during your season, it's a workbook, it's a journal, and it helps you all along the way while you're in the thing you're doing in your sport. So that's currently out. You can get that at prepbook.info. You can get the prep book right now. My new book that's coming out in the next few weeks, and maybe we can arrange it where when this airs, I can give a coupon code or something for your listeners. We'll
absolutely.
talk
We'll
about
find
that.
it in the show notes.
Okay. The new book is the prep book for young athletes. So, young athletes who are in competitive sports, they're serious about their sport, they can take this streamlined book, 10 quick exercises to improve their mental toughness, which will help with their mental wellness. And it's an easy, quick read for, I would say, 13 to 18-year olds serious about their sport and they want some mental toughness techniques. The Athlete's Prep book for young athletes is the one for you. So I'm so excited about it coming out. It's really a reflection of the work that I've been doing all these years in my practice, and I'm just continuing it now through being published.
Love it. I cannot wait to get my hands on the youth version because I definitely know I'll be able to use it with my kiddos as I train them too. So thank you for that. And thank you so unbelievably much for being on the show and coaching me there at the end, as well as sharing all the information about everything that we covered from all the different levels and how the culture of mental health needs to be interjected into every athletic organization from the lowest levels of youth athletics all the way up to professional. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I think this was so great, and have me back anytime.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map a path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.